Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. We are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling children and parents to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures in order for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces, and we just dropped a thought piece this past Sunday. So definitely be sure to meander over to the website and check out our content. If it is the case that you're looking for listening alternatives, we are also available on 10 different podcast platforms. So definitely be sure to check out the links that we have in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello everybody. Welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And this week our topic of discussion is education. And this is actually the last of our 4-part series on education that we started at the end of December, and we were having existential conversations around human expansion. And I started with an overarching overview around market economics and why societies are organized the way that they are, really with the intention of enabling everyone to pursue interests beyond their basic survival needs. And when I talked about what these pursuits entailed, I talked about it being in line with aesthetic, social, and intellectual expansion. And then I did a deeper dive on aesthetic expansion, on intellectual expansion, and now in this segment, we're going to be doing a deeper dive on social expansion. Now, listen, I'm here to give you more of a theoretical overview of social expansion. I have to say that when it comes to human expansion, if there is an area that I struggle with, it is social expansion. And when I say that I struggle, I set up social goals as I set up goals for aesthetic and intellectual goals annually. So these are how I typically frame my birth year resolutions around these types of expansion goals. But where I typically find that I fall short is with our social goals. And that's because social goals are less solitary. It's much easier to pursue goals individually, and typically with aesthetic and intellectual goals, that is definitely something that we're able to do. Much more difficult to pursue goals socially because there's just a lot more nuance, a lot of different elements that are in place. They just make it a little bit more complex. So I'm not going to take full blame here. I mean, I'm going to take partial blame. And some people might be surprised that social is an area of human expansion that I struggle with because I am a social butterfly. I love socializing as much as I love my own solitary time. But I'm more breadth than depth. So I'm very good at socializing broadly and meeting a lot of different people and connecting and getting to know their stories. but I struggle a little bit more with that. So developing deeper connections. So typically when I do set up social expansion goals, it's really around cultivating the deeper connections and just getting out of my own way and developing those deep and meaningful relationships. All to say, social is so much more than cultivating deeper relationships. Like setting social expansion goals could be stepping outside of your comfort zone. It could be exploring a different country. It could be exploring a different culture. There's so many different ways that we are social that we kind of don't think about intentionally, just as much as there are ways that, we're social that we gravitate towards naturally, right? So when we think about social, we think about family structures. When we think about social, we think about work. When we think about social, we think about, the extracurricular activities that we're in. But when we think about social can extend way beyond those standard groups that typically lie in our day-to-day or week-by-week routines. And it's very important that when we think about human expansion, when we think about our own expansion, expanding our scope of reference and getting a sense as to whether or not we need to revise or to look at the way we see our world ourselves, that we step outside of our comfort zone and also give ourselves an opportunity to see the world through different lenses. And that's really what social is about recognizing that the world exists within the frame of perception. And the more that we get a sense of how nuanced perception is, how nuanced one scene can be to a multitude of different people, it just makes life and meaning much more enriching and much more meaningful. So there's so many different ways for social to translate. And again, like when I set social expansion goals, they're typically twofold. So social goals by way of stepping outside of my comfort zone, so kind of exposing myself to different social groups, and also social goals by way of deepening the way that I show up in the existing social groups that I'm already in. So it will typically be about novelty and also about just building depth or adding layers to the social groups that I'm currently in. And I focus on expansion that way. Now, if you're listening to this video and you yourself are focused on social expansion and you have different ideas other than the ones that I've provided by way of how you have expanded yourself socially, then definitely feel free to leave a comment down below. But I just wanted to give you some purview on it. I think that it's really important that we are intentional about our growth and development, that we're intentional about how we grow and how we develop if our societies are organized to enable us to pursue this type of growth beyond basic survival needs. And again, that's what it's supposed to be. I'm sure that was the intention. I don't think that it necessarily translates that way here and now. I think that there's a lot that we can do by way of reform to make growth and human expansion more accessible to everybody. But so long as you do see that there's room for human expansion for you, then my suggestion is to pursue it. And these videos aren't going to be very long. I don't want to, just fill it for the sake of filling it. I wanted to give you purview on what social expansion entailed. It is not an area of strength for me, but it is something that I do find is important, and it's something that I work on an annual basis. And now it's something that is on your radar. So hopefully it's something that you can work on an annual basis as well. Now, before we tune out, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we do plan on going live at least twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our Facebook Live page. And we have a thematic calendar posted on our website so that you have a sense of the topics that we'll discuss. We also have all the specific topics that we'll be discussing with an opportunity to RSVP. Now, these events are paid events, and that's because we're facilitating these events in such a way that we're cultivating the critical thinking required to derive more meaning and fulfillment out of life. And if this is something that you feel applies to you, if you want to be a game changer in your own setting and environment, then definitely be sure to tune in. And we look forward to seeing you in our next segment. We'll chat with you soon.